Business 101 students, hi, Catherine Robertson here. Some of you may have been on campus this morning. I don't know. Today is the big eclipse day. All right, I am coming to you about week 5. If you haven't turned in your homework for week 4, we are getting back at it. So hopefully you had a great spring break. And we are refocusing now back to our last 8 weeks of this 12-week course. So in week 5, there are a couple things. There is a discussion post, and I see some of you are already chiming in on that discussion post. That goes along with chapter 6, business formation. I do have a short video that really highlights the business formation aspects of chapter 6. And so I recommend watching that video first. Now, chapter 5, those of you that have had my business comm class or another business comm class, you will realize there are a lot of similarities in chapter 5. Chapter 5 starts to talk about this whole idea of communicating not only interpersonally, but how we might do it in a business setting, which is not that much different from how we handle folks in other areas of our life. But we're more professional in a business setting in most cases. And so when we're looking at that, we think about the sender and the recipient. And we think a lot about, again, this overlaps with the business comm course that we have here, which is also transitioning into the IPC, interpersonal communication course, that Instructor Forrester and I are collaborating on, that you might want to take. All right, so that is part of the curriculum. So moving forward, communication, if you look through the slides for, read the chapter and look through the slides for chapter 5, you will see that a lot of what happens with communication is on the listening end, right? And chapter 5 goes into some of the communication barriers that we see, and that not only like physical barriers, right? So you will note that in slide 5 that there are different barriers, and 6 are listed, right? And then they are detailed in the chapter. So different types of barriers would include physical barriers, right? Language barriers are how difficult is it to talk to someone or listen to someone that's speaking another language or partially another language. Body language, right? And so at least with Zoom, we have that helping from a virtual standpoint. But body language is such an important component of how we communicate as a species, right? Not just in the business world, but sometimes there might be like a language barrier, but our body language, right? Or there might be a perceptual barrier, which is another one, an organizational barrier or cultural barrier, which I will talk about here in a second. But body language can overcome a lot of that, right? That's a barrier. Perceptual, right? How we perceive the world. We all perceive things through a little bit different lens, depending on our experiences, right? And organizational, different organizations really have different ways. If you've worked at different places, you know this. Organizations have different ways of handling problems, of compensating and inviting in new employees. How do they treat their employees on a regular basis? How do they treat others, right, outside of the business on a regular basis? And then cultural as well. So cultural here in the US versus maybe if you were living in France or in India or China, you're going to have different cultural differences. And so that can be tricky, especially when in our global marketplace, right, when we are dealing with companies and customers that are in other countries. So when we're thinking about communication, this idea of active listening, right? Make sure you go through Exhibit 5.1 and you look at some tips for better listening, right? And thinking about how do you listen? How do you engage from the listening aspect, from the receiver end, right? And so make sure that you are, allowing yourself some extra mental capacity to receive on your end. And so thinking about the various communication channels, again, that's changed over the years, right? We didn't have Zoom 10 years ago, 5 years ago. We didn't have the internet in the 90s, right? We couldn't have done what we're doing with this course even, 10 years ago. Nope. We couldn't, maybe we were just starting to break through in about 2014 where we have some online courses, but we didn't really have online videos. The internet was still, a bit young, right? So thinking about different communication channels, thinking about when we communicate, understanding our own biases and being tolerant of others' biases, right? What else is important out of chapter 5? Thinking about how we do presentations, how we open and close those. You will be doing a paper that involves at least putting together of a PowerPoint that you would present from if you were in class. And last but not least, in Exhibit 5.6, think about how you might deliver, right? From a speech standpoint, from a pitch standpoint, if you're in a meeting, what would be some tips for a dynamic delivery? And that really is chapter 5 as you go through chapter 5, business communication. Chapter 6 starts to talk about business formation. And when we talk about business formation, this is from really it's from a legal standpoint. And so the video does a nice job. It's actually an accountant, CPA, that outlines the differences between things like a sole proprietorship, partnership, um, a corporation, a C corporation, a S corporation. One of the key takeaways from this chapter, though, is remembering this idea of limited liability, and that you want to make sure that even if you're a landlord and you have one rental property, right, you would likely want to incorporate, or if you have a small sewing business, incorporate. You can do it through LegalZoom if you need to, right? Spend $300, incorporate, and through incorporation, then you can separate yourself from the business. The business is its own entity, because if you can do that, it shields you as an individual, things you don't have in sole proprietorship, but it shields you as an individual from being sued or the liability of the business, right? And so if you're a sole proprietorship and you haven't incorporated and something happens, you have a pizza shop and somebody eats a piece of pizza and chokes and God forbid either is sick or dies, right? You could get sued and they could take everything, your house, your savings, your kids' college fund, your college fund, all of it, your car. They could take everything you own because you're not protected. Limited liability would protect you somewhat, protect your personal items, because the business is its separate entity. The business could get sued, but you personally couldn't. So I always tell any business owner that I come in contact with, or any entrepreneur that's thinking about starting a business, you need to incorporate. Make sure you incorporate and get that limited liability situation moving forward. So there are a couple slides that go into the advantages and disadvantages of incorporating or being in a sole proprietorship. So make sure you are reviewing those. Also in chapter 6, we start to talk about what a franchise is and how that might work, a franchisor and franchisees, right? So if you want to open a McDonald's, how would you do that? And some of the advantages and disadvantages of a franchise, right? Some of the advantages would be this idea of, if you own a McDonald's, you get all of the McDonald's hubbub, right? All of the McDonald's brand from the 1950s onward, all of the commercials, all of the marketing, all of it that goes into McDonald's, right? So you're going to be pretty successful. However, if something really bad happens to McDonald's, this idea of the halo effect, then your business could suffer even if you have good customers and you have a good business. So the good and the bad when you're tied to a franchise, right? Typically, you have to pay a decent amount of money, though, to your franchise. And different companies that are franchised are the franchise arrangements are different for every company, whether it's a McDonald's or a Sonic or Chick-fil-A, right? Starbucks is corporate owned, not franchise. So I can't go say I want to buy a Starbucks and put it somewhere, right? It's corporate owned store, much like a store in the mall would be, like an H&M, right? A company owns H&M and they put the store there. So a little bit different idea. So go through some of those and look at some of the things relating to franchises. Again, if you ever have questions, this week too, we are doing, I almost forgot, there's a discussion post this week. Your homework is due Sunday, right? And I have that post, chapters 5 and 6. But in this week, we also have a discussion post. A few of you have chimed in, and really it's for fun, but it's reading into chapter 6. Reading chapter 6, a typical partnership spells out details such as initial financial contributions each partner will make, the specific duties, responsibilities. So maybe there's a silent partner and a managing partner, how they share the profits or losses, how they settle disagreements. So you want a very detailed contract. All right, so your job is to research on the internet, to create a checklist regarding the steps, forms, fees needed in a general partnership in PA. So you're doing it in this state. So you should don't spend too much time on this, but I just want you to look and see, how that the tools are out there for you to at least get started, right? On if you wanted to maybe get together with one person or multiple people and have some sort of business. How would you go about that, right? So get the checklist together of their forms, or what would the steps be. And so you can write this in a few sentences or bullet points if you wish, right? But you can find it on the Pennsylvania website. Look through those things. And you can't really be wrong on this. I just want to see different people's takes. Let's see what I already have up there. I see David, Desiree, Cole, Lindsay. A few of you are already posting. Great. So I don't have this set that you can't see current other posts that are up there. So it's pretty interesting, right? What these students, I already see what they are writing about, and how you get started, right? So again, remember, the more a lot about this class and all our classes, the more you put into it and kind of do the research that instructors are tailoring for you, the more you get out of it in the end, the more more knowledge you gain. So a lot of it is about you finding things and bringing them to the table, and also the exchanges that you have with other students. So very important. So I hope that you enjoy some of these discussions. As always, you are welcome. We would love to see you on campus. You are welcome, to set up time or just stop in and see me. I'm on campus pretty much every day the rest of the semester. We could set up a virtual meet, collaborate, FaceTime, whatever you like. If you have questions and comments, things like that. So go ahead and try the discussion as well this week. And so that should all be available to you in week 5. I realize today is the big eclipse day, and I do have my shirt I see sitting over here, Erie Eclipse, right? And go ahead and try those different things from 5 and 6, and I will circle back around with you later in the week. Be safe. I heard it's supposed to get kind of trafficy out in Erie County today, and the sun is actually coming out. If you're looking behind me, I've been watching. It was raining when I was on campus this morning, and it was very cloudy and rainy, right? And I see the sun is starting to come out, and so be careful out there, but have fun. And if you have classes this afternoon that are on campus, I believe they are synchronous or online or however, so make sure you check in with that. Classes will resume as normal tomorrow on campus, and they should be resuming just fine online. Have a great afternoon, and welcome to week 5.